Sarah Phillips, thanks so much for coming in. It's great to have you here. Do you see the transition of government to be a positive force for the security future of Yemen?
On the one hand, yes, because the way that things were under President Ali Abdullah Saleh, they couldn't have gotten much worse. His time had come. He simply had to go. On the other hand, what we've been left with, the presidency of the former vice president, isn't a particularly positive state of affairs either. He's not a particularly strong figure, particularly in the northern tribal areas where this really counts, and he's to a significant degree dependent on key figures within the old regime, and in front of many Yemeni audiences that makes him look quite weak. So there is the potential that things could improve. However, he's landed in the middle of quite a big power struggle between members of the old regime, and it remains to be seen whether he can sort of push that away, or even if he wants to push that away and exercise executive authority independently.
Do you think the US is going to become increasingly engaged in securing Yemen's future, or do you think that the US knows its limitations of its role there?
When you hear the US administration speaking about the problems in Yemen, you get the sense that they are quite aware of their limitations. However, the way that they're acting suggests something a little different. We see an increasing military presence within Yemen. There's increasing numbers of drone strikes and air strikes, and also they've said that there are some military personnel in the country. So on the one hand, they're saying that they're very careful that this is just a counter-terrorism campaign. They don't want to get involved in counterinsurgency in the way that they have in Afghanistan and also in Iraq. But on the other hand, that seems to be it's conceivable that that's what's coming. Their presence is increasing quite notably.
Do you think Al-Qaeda and their associates are gaining ground in Yemen, and do they pose a threat to the continued existence of the Yemeni state?
They are certainly gaining ground in Yemen, and part of the reason for this, I would argue, is that they're quite skillfully taking advantage of the propaganda opportunity that increasing US military intervention is having. So they're very good at filming the damage, the destruction from the airstrikes, at capitalizing on the fact that there have been civilian casualties. They've been putting out videos recently of members affiliated with Al-Qaeda going out onto the street and doing things like fixing generators, fixing wells, really low-level service delivery sort of stuff. And that they do get something of a propaganda benefit from that. That said, I don't think that they are popular enough at all to gain the sort of traction that they would need to be a real threat to the state. Yemenis, by and large, have no interest in the sort of religious and political ideology spouted by Al-Qaeda and its ilk. The only reason, the main reason they're seeing a spike at the moment, I think, is that they're quite skillfully taking advantage of the level of intervention going on in Yemen.
And what do you see the future for Yemen in the next couple of years?
I'm very worried about the future of Yemen, particularly in the short term, because it's difficult to see where something positive is going to happen in the short term. In the longer term, I think the fact that we've had this uprising and you've seen this real awakening of political consciousness in the country that wasn't there when I last saw the country is a positive thing. But at the moment, the way that the US and the international community at large is looking at Yemen is very much through the lens of security objectives. If we're going to deliver economic development programs or political development programs, we're going to do it in the areas that we see there being an explicit security threat. So you see them being rolled out, I think, not in the places where they necessarily could do the most good, but in the places where they see it as being most likely that they may be able to score points against Al-Qaeda. And I think that's very much the wrong way to look at development in Yemen.
Sarah, thank you so much for coming into the Institute today.
My pleasure, thank you.